steady.
The doctors insist it will not happen if I don't take medication.
No, that's absolutely not true. And I can,
And
like,
so
I'm
I
gonna
feel
tell
like
you right
I'm
now,
trapped.
I will work with anybody on the side who wants help on top of what we're doing here. I am completely open to that. So it sounds like this might, I can call in my resources and work with you in a more in-depth way. So that, because that's not the truth at all. I'm telling you right now, it's 100% not the truth.
You're going to see time and time again, we're going to show you over the course of this, when we go along, like case study after case, like thousands, tens of thousands of studies of people that have gone on like a plant-based diet.
But it takes work and it takes
and
commitment.
completely came
That's
off
what
all
it
their
requires.
medications,
Yes.
reversed all their diseases.
I believe it. Our
And
bodies
you're gonna see that
are supposed to heal themselves.
it's not even I don't even want to call it a diet, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle change, right? And the beautiful part about it is you can eat as much as you want of this type of food, and it heals everything. You give the body what it wants, what it needs, and I'll start by going to the next slide here, and this is Hippocrates, let thy food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food, and he said this in 440 BC. He's the father of modern medicine, and doctors recite the Hippocratic Oath, although I think they've gotten way far away from this.
Very hypocritical.
But you give the
Yeah.
body what it needs, and the body will heal itself.
Because we're divinely designed to do that.
Right, and that's the way God
Amen.
designed us.
But you have
be.
to give it the right tool.
And you are what you eat, right? How many times have you heard it? You are what you eat, and it's just so true, but it's so hard to live.
Okay.
But anyway, one size fits all.
Yeah.
Right, so, so that's what I was gonna say, so we'll talk heavy plant-based, but again, like, meat is medicine as well. A really good grass-fed, properly raised animal definitely has its place in
Wild
human
caught.
diets and is really necessary for a lot of physiologies, because everybody here is bio-individual, everybody here is completely different, your structures are all different. Somebody, there's a ton of avocado in that salad, by the way. There's a ton of avocado in that salad, but somebody who needs to stay away from fats
You want to
for
limit it.
specific reasons like this, right, so, it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. So we want to definitely teach you the fundamentals here, and highlight and educate you on why organic is really important and what the heck GMOs are and what they do to your gut and why it's critical that you stay away from them if you are on a healing journey. And things like that like when you go to the grocery store, you're now not going to buy Ronzoni pasta even though it's 98 cents a box, because you're gonna know that that is genetically modified wheat, and you're gonna know that it is not doing anything good except for harming you. So that's why this class is like super fundamental, because super important, because those are things that the general population of people do not know and have no comprehension of, and think that they're eating healthy, but they're not, because they just don't understand marketing.
And marketing, one of the big things that they do is they use confusion a lot. They like to confuse the public, and they just have to put that doubt in your mind, So they'll come out with like conflicting things, and you get so confused that you're like, I don't know what to do anymore, so I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
It's why you're here to read labels, right? Like it's really important, because there's a whole lot of
And
junk.
then, they'll come out with a study about how good milk is for you, but it's done by the dairy industry. It's funded by the dairy industry, so it's like, it's like tobacco industry saying, like smoking
Right.
doesn't kill you. It's just,
Well, doctors at one point, back in the, whatever, I forget, 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, something, were actually saying that smoking was good for you. They promoted
Right,
it.
yeah.
Every
Which
doctor was
cigarettes
like-
do you smoke, and there's doctors there. I prefer Camel.
It took over 8,000 to 10,000 studies to finally, for the cigarette companies. And
For them to put Surgeon General warning and them to stop
finally
advertising.
wake up, and food is no different. And actually, a lot of the tobacco companies bought up a lot of the food companies
It's
when
the
they went out.
same evil,
And
just
they
a
used-
different
they used the
face.
same- They used
It's horrible.
So anyway, do you want to?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
It's better to smoke that without a filter.
Huh?
Takes all the nutrients out of it.
Yeah, that's why you gotta smoke with a filter, have a filter, that's right. Yeah, it's better for you.
Yeah, those non-filtered cigarettes.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Since you're a pro at this? Like I drive her crazy, because every commercial, I cannot believe, and like I said, I'm in my 60s, so for the last 60 years, we never heard of 90%
Restless leg syndrome.
of these things that they're promoting on TV, and they all have a pill for it. This
Well,
can't be,
so
this
back
can't
to
be
what
possible.
Liza was saying.
And
A lot of them are
they come up
immune
with these, I don't know how they come
suppressants.
up with these names, there's no vowels in the name. I'm like, I'm like, Vanna, can I buy a vowel? You know, and I'm like, Tremfya, and this one, and that one, and this, no, and even autism. We never, maybe we didn't know what it was back in the 50s.
Whoa, right, the 50s, there was a huge change in our society, and what was the Industrial Revolution
There was
sparked a
none
lot
of this in the
that.
50s and 60s.
Okay,
So what happened?
so, you know who the Rockefellers are?
Yes.
And the Carnegies.
And the Carnegies, those really great people that literally shaped our society as we speak right now, are in the oil industry. So they came up with a new type of medical school with a bunch of scientists that would use petroleum-based medications with some plants in it. And that's what medical schools in the country and now would start being based off of, fixing illnesses that way and taking out natural health completely. Like they take God out of the country, and this is God. Like these are the things that God gave us here on earth with healing properties in them, as your wife can speak of. Took them out. They don't exist. It's why in their curriculum physicians are not taught about nutrition and what it does to the body, period. How it heals the body, nothing. When I was in nursing school, the only nutrition I got was carbs, fats, proteins, this is the percentage that you need. How do you read the food pyramid? Again, all government prompted stuff, right? And that's how that is.
And also
And
also
plus-
controlled by the drug industry.
Yes. Correct,
And
because they're in
Because they
bed
got,
together.
they're not fixing the problem, they're just
No,
giving,
because
they're putting a
you're-
Band-Aid on
You
it
make
by
them
taking
money.
that pill.
You make that money.
You also have to think, you have to follow the money, because then you think there's also that link with Monsanto and our farming. And so they're all linked together, and this one's paying off this one. It's a whole nother rabbit
If you
hole to
look
go
at the
into.
heads of the FDA or the CDC, they all, and government senator, they all
They're all
switch
tied in.
positions every
I know.
couple.
They're
Well,
all
we've
It's
seen
not-
that, we've seen that happen every day the last 2
Yeah,
years.
but they've
Right.
all been on the board of Monsanto or pharmaceutical, or somehow there's a link there. So they're making us sicker, so then we are dependent on pharmaceuticals, we're dependent on and it's this whole,
Yeah.
it's scary.
We're in the business now of disease care. It's not healthcare.
And basically,
So
what I hear
if they're in the business of treating diseases,
no
and all they're
prevention.
taught is you have this disease, or this problem, or this symptom, this is the drug you take for it.
and
And
Right, a pill for every illness.
And then it's gonna cause this and that.
It's a
Yeah,
reduction.
yeah, another
it's-
one. It's a
called-
reductionist
It's
model.
called a
And the moral
reductionist
of the
model, and they reduce the body to parts, instead of what we're gonna learn here, and what Colin T. Campbell and a lot of
Holistic
other.
health, it's whole
It's-
body medicine.
It's a whole
As
body.
opposed to, you have a cardiologist and an endocrinologist and a pulmonologist, like everything is separate, and this doctor prescribes stuff that counteracts this doctor's stuff, and they don't talk to each other. Like, that model makes no sense if you actually step back and look at it.
Yeah,
What happened in the 50s is that we were post-World War II,
yeah.
and they had a bajillion, thousands of chemicals that they came out with for war purposes, DDT, things like that.
Agent Orange.
Agent Orange, they had all of these people now out of their houses working in factories developing these chemicals for warfare. And then after the war, they were like, whoa, what do we do? Oh, okay, let's put them in shampoos, let's put them in perfumes, let's spray them on their food, let's look at the approved chemical list that the EPA puts out that's allowed to go on your food or in skincare or.
Let me tell you, you know what, you know how many chemicals go under the term fragrance?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
5,000.
In
5,000?
Europe, they're all banned.
Right, so Europe is a very, if you want to move anywhere, they don't, GMOs are illegal and they're really strict about
Yes.
chemicals that are going into their population because they want a healthy population, because a healthy population does a lot of good, right? As opposed to a bunch of sick people walking around doing nothing but watching commercials like, oh, I have that problem, oh, I have that problem. So autism, restless leg syndrome, all of this stuff that
Yeah.
is now completely rampant in our society is because for the past 70 years, we've been slowly being poisoned and poisoned and poisoned through your skin, through your air, through the air you breathe, through your eyes, through your food, through everything around you. Like everything that you come in contact with is a massive endocrine disruptor on some level. I mean, the gentleman that was just in here talking about paint and how 5 years ago you can't get the same paint that you could get today because the EPA pulls stuff out or they change the chemicals that are approved in it. And it's because of that. Does that make sense? What I just said about paint? Okay.
And the food is one of the big.
Michelle? Is it? Okay.
Just to run this full circle for you, because I do utilization review now for the hospital.
What? Okay, can I ask what hospital?
Insure at Danbury Hospital.
Okay.
And any place, I'm part of corporate now, I'm on the business side of things.
Okay.
So any hospital that they tell me to do.
Okay.
And I'm licensed in both states, so sometimes I'll pick up a VAS or whatever. But just so you know, Medicare reimbursement is based on your treatment.
Right.
So if you come in and you are coming in, say, with a GI bleed, and we don't give you a PPI, we don't get paid.
Ah,
Yep.
a proton pump inhibitor
Yep.
is a medication.
Bingo.
A PPI is a medication.
My husband with this.
So this is a full circle thing where the
It's a system
government
that they have set up.
and Medicare pays probably what, upwards of 60% of our patients. And whatever they do, Aetna and Cigna and Anthem
follow
will
suit.
follow suit. Anthem is right on top of that immediately.
Yes. And you ever think about, like, if you're going
So
to get a
you're
test, so my vitamin D level that I needed to know, which now is low, but technically it's not low on their standards, but it's low, was not medically necessary. Well, we all should know what our vitamin D levels are, because we should know what we, and for me, it's not just because I don't take it, or I'm not in the sun, it's something else is going on in my body. But like you said, they're telling doctors what is medically necessary and what is not. So a doctor might say, I don't want to give this medication to a patient, but they have to for billing.
Right.
It's all.
Doctors are not allowed to spend, I mean, they're not allowed to spend a decent amount of time with you trying to get to the bottom of a health situation. They only have enough time to hear your symptoms and write a prescription based on your symptoms, nothing else, not your story, not anything emotional or traumatic that happened to you 2 years before that could be what triggered not wanting to go to the gym or not. I mean, there's like big picture stuff here that they just aren't
Unfortunately, there's no money in
healthy people.
So, but the good news is that we have the ability to take control of our own lives. And we have the choice of what we put in our mouth 3 times a day. And it really, I think it's a big revolution that started. I think the more and more
God's
people,
waking people up.
the more and more people that wake up and start making the change, and you see it already with like the huge spike in nut milks, right? Because we're gonna find out how bad cow's milk is for you. Nobody should be drinking cow's milk, right? We're the only mammals on the planet that drink the secretions of another mammal, and we just shouldn't be doing
You're
it.
not gonna be able to unhear anything here, I'm sorry.
I know.
But it's about giving
No
it to
more
you
milk.
straight.
I'm a truth talker. You're gonna find out that I'm a truth talker, and I don't sugarcoat it really. I'm good. And a lot of documentaries that you watch that we're gonna show some clips of, and we'll give you a whole list of like ones that are really really cool to watch, but they don't really sugarcoat it either. And some are really graphic when it comes to like the animal cruelty and what goes on with the way they treat these animals. But anyway, the good news is we all have a choice, and we all we all can take control of our own health. We don't have to fall into the system that was created by our society, you know, because it's just a corrupt system. It's just all
Yeah.
about money.
It's
It-
a fallen world, like it's legit, and that's what it looks like, and it hides in plain
And
sight.
basically,
It
this
hides
is
in
what,
plain
and
sight.
basically all that government stuff is what's making all of us
Our government
fat and
what-
unhealthy.
And what really,
And they know it,
and what
but
really.
they're getting paid billions by
Yeah.
lobbyists, so.
Yeah, well, really, that's what
And this,
really,
and this group is gonna change that, right?
That's right.
it starts one person at a time.
Yeah.
If you call me fat again.
All right,
Hey, sometimes the truth hurts, you know?
all right, so let's get into some lecture. We have a bunch of slides for you today, and then if we have time, we can definitely go over this handout, and then, you know, we'll take it from
Yeah, I
there.
mean, we don't have to get through this whole thing, we could see how far we get.
I wanna get to the GMO thing, so they
Yeah,
start,
that's
like,
that's in the beginning.
okay, let's do it. All right, so can we just name off the top of your heads, just start shouting stuff out, what components of good health would be, in your opinions, just anything?
What was the question?
Component.
What are components of good health?
Oh,
Omega-3s.
Yeah, great, yeah. Oh, okay, good, yeah.
what did she say?
Okay. Omega-3s.
Salmon, and, you know.
Something I don't do, drink water.
Ah, that is like,
Probably one of those.
if you're not sleeping at night, you might not be drinking enough water during the
David
day.
Wolf.
That's why I don't
Heard
sleep.
David
Wow.
Wolf.
I don't drink any water.
I try to get 120
None.
ounces.
He says you get up and you should
Try.
drink water.
I try. Doesn't always work.
Right,
especially
no,
with
the
kids.
first thing you should do in the morning is drink water. Yeah, and then add in some of the oils that you can get from these ladies. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah,
It's a very
water.
bad, it's a very bad habit of mine. I
Not
drink-
drinking
I don't
water.
drink any water.
Okay,
Just
All right.
enough to take these pills.
Yeah, to take those pills that the government is telling me to take.
we can switch them out for supplements.
Okay.
Are you missing a slide there?
Nope,
Are you sure?
what are components of good health? That's the
Oh,
first
okay.
part.
Proteins, carbs, fats. Those are what you call macronutrients. It's the big things that you learn about in nursing school or medical school or nutrition. Proteins break down into amino acids, which are literally the building block of life. That is why they're important, but as are carbohydrates. Carbohydrates break down into glucose, which is half of what your body, more than half of what your body gets energy from. Glucose gets transformed into ATP in your mitochondria and thus gives you energy. Fats break down into essential fatty acids, like she had mentioned the omega-3s that you can get from foods. But those are critical for brain function, for pretty much every processes in your body. So those three things are your big ones. That's what you should get at every meal, or at least, you know, multiple times a day in different, you know, I'm losing the word. It'll come. Or not. The what?
Percentages, different.
Sure, yeah, there you go. Water, vitamins, and minerals are called your micronutrients. Those are like the little tiny things that you definitely need that are essential for life, obviously as well, but you just get them on, that's why vitamins are so little, and like, you know, a potato is huge. You can get them from supplements. You do get them in all of the vegetables and fruits and meats that you eat. Seaweed's a really great version of that, but you know.
We'll get
I'll
into
bring
those.
some samples of seaweed you can munch on anytime. Yeah, okay, so,
And you're gonna see a lot of debate about how much protein versus how much carbs versus how much fat. The protein, there's a lot of emphasis on protein, and the first question that I always get when we went plant-based or vegan or anything where you cut out meat is like, where do you get your protein? Where do you get your protein? And there's a big push on protein, like men are supposed to get like 100 grams of protein a day, right? Way too much, you only really need like 40.
That's
maybe
actually the
50.
first thing I asked you about.
oh, yeah?
Where do you get
Right, and
protein?
that's what the paramedic I used to work with, like when I told her, she was like, well, where are you getting your protein from? I'm gonna show you a clip on that. Carbs get a bad rap. Everybody thinks carbs, that's all this low carb diet like carbs, but we're gonna talk about good carbs, like from potatoes and like whole foods, not the bad carbs,
Not
not from the
potato
bread
chips.
and pastas and donuts, and those are bad carbs. So when everybody says, oh, carbs, oh, cut out all your carbs, not a good idea. A lot of stuff that I've read, the percentage was like almost as high as 80%.
90% in the Hippocrates Health Institute. Again, they're like the alpha and omega of eating. You go there with stage 4 multiple sclerosis or a really high stage cancer and you stay there for 3 weeks. You have all of this type of psychosocial, behavioral, spiritual, emotional, nutritional work done. And, labs and all of these different like infrared saunas and stuff like that they have, but they only eat a raw, sprouted diet.
And tons of
Which
juices.
is, right, and
So
tons
it's
of
like a
wheatgrass.
they talk about
It's a
live. I used to
living
grow my
food
wheatgrass.
diet.
What's
Oh,
the name
yeah.
of this place?
Yeah.
It's the Hippocrates Health Institute.
Oh, okay.
It's where I got my first certification from. It was phenomenal, but, oh my gosh. Oh, their philosophy is 5% protein, 5% fat, and 90% carbs, because it's supposed to be coming from
Fruits and vegetables.
fruits and, not even fruits.
They don't
No,
believe in
they don't
fruit.
believe in
They
fruit.
don't,
No,
well,
too
they
much
do
Well,
up to 15% of your diet if you're healthy.
but people that are in a disease state, like fighting cancers, they no food at all, because fruit has a lot of sugar in it.
And
It's natural
cancer
sugar.
cells eat sugar. That's what
Cancer
cancer
eats
lives
sugar.
on, is sugar. It's what it lives on. Remove sugar from your diet if you have cancer and watch your cancer.
Plus sugar causes inflammation, right?
Right,
All
absolutely.
kinds of, all kinds. Oh, so where do you get your protein? There you go.
Robets.
So this is
You got that question for me.
Dr. Milton Mills. This guy's awesome. He's in a ton of documentaries. He's incredible. He's like one of my favorite dudes. But this is a short little clip from a documentary called What the Health. It was one of the first ones that we watched that we were like, whoa.
What the hell?
Yeah, and he uncovers.
Title's great.
I watched that, it made me want to go vegan.
See?
Yeah, yeah,
I
Right?
really did.
I know.
Yeah, the
If
guy
you
that
need
did
more,
this-
How did you get him to watch it? I can't get the people, if.
I
No.
told
I
you, it
love
was
it.
not
I'm
me,
all
it
about
was the Holy Spirit.
I'm
I
all
didn't
about
do
this stuff. I'm like,
I
yeah,
should
let's
get my
go.
husband.
it. And he's also
Anti-
he's like a pushback on government, so it was
What about forks over knives?
great, absolutely, they're phenomenal.
We're gonna come up,
That's really-
next week we'll have a whole list.
What was the one that,
Hungry for change,
no,
food is
no,
medicine.
no, the football players?
Yes,
and
The Game Changers.
The Game Changers.
Oh,
They don't
yeah.
talk about organic
Produced
and
by
non-GMO
Arnold
at all.
Schwarzenegger,
Jackie
Jackie
Chan.
Chan, and
And who,
James Cameron.
yeah, who did, yeah.
Awesome, I mean, they did a really good, this is like
That was amazing.
a feature film, like the
Yeah.
way they did it.
Somebody told me about that too. UFC
Did you watch
fighters.
it?
I didn't watch it, but
Wow.
Tennessee Titans.
Especially for
The year they
men,
went to the
there's
Super Bowl
a
and
really
almost beat
big
the Rams, they
highlighted
lost by
section
a
in
yard,
there.
remember
Yeah.
that last play of the game? They were on half the team was on a plant-based diet.
Hmm.
Wow, that's great.
That they made it
Of
to the
which team?
playoffs.
The Tennessee Titans.
Well, they lost.
I know, but
Wait,
who
no.
were they before then?
That's
When was
'cause the
last
other
time
half
they
the
made it
team
to
The other
playoffs?
team-
Yeah, I mean, blame it on that.
Yeah, the other team was eating junk food, they won.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, let's watch this, why are we not on the internet?
Hold on, wait.
No, you should be.
Hold on.
Maybe you came up.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, you did, hold on.
But
Hot
this,
spot.
what the hell, what else? I mean, that was the first
Can
one.
you
Forks
see this
over
one?
knives is awesome.
Yeah. There are
Otherwise,
so
I'll
many,
switch
I mean, it's over, it can be overwhelming, it can
Yeah.
be, but
That's pretty cool.
Oops, okay, this way. We'll make it bigger. Oh, okay. We're gonna run it.
This is, what's that? Sorry, dude.
So many people eat meat and dairy every day of their lives, and we are so concerned about getting enough protein.
Do we have to eat meat to get complete protein?
You want me to jump off this building, don't you? Well, first of all protein is made by plants. I'll state that again for the record. All protein is initially made by plants, all of it. And it is not necessary to eat animal tissue in order to get protein. Only plants have the ability to actually take nitrogen from the air, break those molecules apart, and incorporate that nitrogen into amino acids and then make protein. Any protein you get from an animal is simply recycled plant protein.
If you ate a diet that was calorically adequate, and even things like brown rice and broccoli, and you got enough of it, you get enough both quantity and quality of protein. 2,000 calories of brown rice and broccoli is going to be about 80 grams of protein a day, including the essential amino acids that you need in order to maintain optimum health.
I mean, grains are loaded with protein. Beans are loaded with protein. Vegetables are loaded with protein.
You really want to get your protein from plants because plant proteins have a much more beneficial effect on our physiology.
The funny thing about protein is most Americans get about twice the amount they need. Most Americans get less than half the amount of fiber they need. But the conversation tends to always be about protein. So in my mind, it's just this magical marketing campaign that protein has taken on over the decades.
The question is not where do you get your protein, it's where do you get your fiber? I have never in my professional career seen a protein deficiency. I've never seen someone come in eating normal amounts of calories and they're protein deficient. You just don't see that.
So human milk has the lowest protein content ever in any species ever tested. I mean, that's the fluid that's been designed by evolution over millions of years. And that's just like the perfect food for human babies, right? Perfect food, lowest protein content any other mammal. And so it gives a sense of kind of protein requirements for anything. So look, then rat milk, ape milk, donkey milk, any milk has ever been tested.
You hear this a lot in bodybuilders. They're like, well, I need, chicken, or I need fish to be, to be strong, to build muscle tissue. That is utter nonsense. The largest, strongest terrestrial animals on the planet are all herbivores. The biggest, strongest animals are all herbivores.
When we bring in people and they're on meaty diets and we transition them to a plant-based diet, we always track what they're eating. Their vitamin intake goes up. Their nutrition overall goes up, dramatically better. And these same people might worry in advance, will I get the nutrition that I need on a plant-based diet? The fact is, you're not getting the nutrition you need on a meat-based diet, and you're going to get dramatically better nutrition on a plant-based diet.
For an average-sized guy like myself, I need about 56 grams of protein a day. That's optimum. Probably I really need 30 to 40 grams a day. Diets that are really high in protein create diabetes, create heart disease, create cancer, create the diseases that I'm treating on a daily basis.
So it's counterproductive.
And I want to say something so funny. Now, with my husband's heart attack, when I was in the hospital, I'm like, okay, so what kind of diet should he have? Now, I know a lot, but I want to see what they're going to tell me.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they'll tell you, now they sent us home with nothing. They said, oh, when he goes to his cardiac rehab, there's a nutritionist there.
Yeah.
They'll go over it. He's finishing his 3 months of cardiac rehab tomorrow. Nobody's talked to him about it.
Yeah.
Now, funny thing is, I went through 3 cardiologists, this third one. Now, he didn't go into it, but he did say his wife got him to be vegan. Now, what I would have loved is for him to talk more to my husband and say, hey, let's talk more about
Right, let's go into
No,
why.
they just talk about the
Yeah,
medication.
and let me tell you, when I was a paramedic, I was also a critical care transport medic, and I would take patients out of the hospitals and take them to the cath lab at a normal state, right? I'd take them to St. Bede's or to Yale. And then I would see them afterwards and take them and, load them up and what are they feeding them? Jell-O.
Yep.
Meaty, fatty, meaty, I'm like, they're just coming at it like a bypass or a stent.
Right, it's a
placement.
total disconnection. They don't see.
And they're in there for their 5th stent, their 6th stent, 7th, 10th stent, and it's a $500 billion industry, right? And all it is a Band-Aid. They're not curing anything.
They're not teaching.
And all the medicines that they're on are not curing anything. The problem is we never get to the root cause of the problem. They're just
And then all the
procedures
side effects
and the
of the
surgeries.
medicines.
We're great at emergency medicine. Like the emergency drugs that we had on the ambulance, absolutely necessary. If you're sick and dying or actively having a heart attack, or if you have some infectious disease, we're great at it. But with chronic disease,
They create it.
we completely missed the mark. And with heart disease, which is the #1 killer of men and just Americans in general, I think it's like up to like 500,000 people a year. It's been proven, and Caldwell Esselstyn that you saw in that last clip, he's the king of the cardiac he did a study, he took like 100 patients, with like
99% occlusions,
Yeah.
like they needed to have
advanced
emergency
coronary
bypass.
artery disease and completely reversed it.
Well,
with
inflammation
diet.
is one of the biggest causes. It's not necessarily the cholesterol. The cholesterol is just the Band-Aid to your body's way of trying to fix the,
Right.
Right.
inflammation in
It's
your
been
arteries.
proven over and over again that diet is the number one cause of
You're
cardiac
inspiring me.
and artery
Give
disease.
up my cheese.
It's not even an opinion, it's like a fact.
It's hard.
You're getting a look.
That's the hardest thing to
That's
give
number
up.
one.
Cheese
That
is-
is, honestly, listen, I don't need to eat meat.
Surprised
The
you didn't
cheese
feel
is
that.
the hardest thing to give up. I've given up dairy in other ways.
You're gonna see dairy is
The
one of
cheese
the
Okay.
is
biggest.
the only thing.
This is the slide that was missing. It was like
I don't know.
nutrition,
I see
exercise,
cheese
sleep,
and
and
milk.
stress management. Where's that slide?
They're nuts.
Oh, okay.
Exercise.
All right, so that was what I was looking for. Like, so the big components of health would be nutrition, sleep management, exercise, and some sort of stress management, emotionally, spiritually, physically, like, oh, okay, well, I don't know then what exercise. So here, now we're gonna talk about exercise for a second. 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, you have to get your heart pumping. Like, and you don't have to go to the gym and start off like hitting it hard because you wanna make manageable, changeable, sustainable, maintainable things. Oh, wow, that was good. You should- Did you hear that?
Yeah,
That did, right?
It's recorded.
Oh, yes! Oh, jeez, I didn't know this was recording. So, going for a 15-minute walk 3 times a week, or getting on a treadmill that you've had in the corner for 15 minutes and putting on, like, I don't know, Pastor Frank just said he was on his Peloton, which made me want to get one, and like listening to a sermon or something like that, that's good. Like something to get you feeling what it feels like to get your heart rate up and coming off of that and being like, wow, I really feel in my body right now. Like that feels good. And it should feel a lot different than, your normal everyday just walking up and down the stairs and doing your routine. Like get it pumping and see how you feel. Let the endorphins get released because those are happy drugs that like God built into your body so that you can have really happy experiences and enjoy life. And that is one of the big ways to do that is through exercise. So, it's not like painful. It doesn't have to be painful. Sleep is so important to your health.
I'm very guilty of this, I'm sorry.
I'm so guilty.
I'm going to come clean on that.
Everything,
I'm a night owl. This is what I do, like this stuff I do.
everything on earth is, like this reality that we live in is dualistic. There's night and day, there's up and down, there's day and night, there's awake, and there is sleep. And there is such a critical reason for it. It is the time that your body has to reboot and rebuild and detox everything that you've used throughout the day. Especially now, our bodies use so much of our vital resources minute to minute, and because our demands on life are so extremely high right now, things that we've never had in the past, electronics, what that does to you and how that depletes you and how that interferes in your body systems is huge. Like we've never had this before. The blue lights that come off of cars, that come off of screens, that come off of your phone, the radiation that you're exposed to now from 5G towers that are not allowed in other countries, by the way, is monumental. And you need sleep, uninterrupted sleep for your body, your hormones, every bit of yourself to be able to reset and rebuild, especially as you start to feed yourself what you need in order for your body to do that. I mean, no lights on, no TVs on, get your cell phones out of the room because your brain, you're addicted to it. Regardless, like everybody is, it's how they're built. The phones are built to have you addicted to them. So try to get it out of your room so that you just go to sleep with an alarm clock, like how we used to go to sleep. try not to get any TVs on. If you need to, maybe put on some sort of meditation to like kind of get you in the mood if you're somebody who does need to fall asleep to the television. I don't know, does anybody here need to fall asleep to the TV on?
No, but I do. On the couch, not even in my.
Okay. So anyways, obviously you get my point, it's super really important. Stress management. Stress causes inflammation on every level. Emotional stress, your emotions are energy in motion. If something traumatic happens to you and you shut it down and you don't let yourself feel something, a death, a car accident, a divorce, an illness, anything, a sad TV show, and you shove that emotion inside of you, it's getting stuck in the energy systems that are the essence of who your physical body is, who your physical body is. And those emotions get stuck in organs, they get stuck in your neck, they get stuck in their back pain, and their neck pain, and their tension, and their headaches, and their migraines, and their leg pain, and their foot pain, and I have arthritis all of a sudden, and you don't know where it came from, and it could have come from 10 years ago because you had a massive blowout with your best friend. I mean, emotions are massive. They wire behavior. We've talked about this for the past couple of weeks in church. Sort of. I mean, I don't know if he necessarily touched on emotions, but it's where most of your subconscious programming that Pastor Frank has been talking about, how to unwire, it's where they come from because they're attached to emotions, those behaviors that you need to kind of unlearn. So emotional stress management is massive. Acupuncture, massage, therapy, having a really good friend to talk to and just have them listen to you. Journaling is so helpful, it's not even funny. I heard something recently, like you write with your non-dominant hand, and the things that come out from that side of your brain that you wouldn't normally be able to tap into, or I know, I was like, I'm a little scared, but like, I know, right? I'm like, I don't know if I'd be able to read it afterwards, honestly.
That's interesting.
Physical stress management is more hooked in with exercise. The detoxification that happens during exercise is also crucial. I talked to the kids about your lymphatic system. In your circulatory system, your heart pumps blood through your body. Your arteries, it's where you get your pulse points from, are under a lot of pressure because your heart is pumping it. They're the closest thing to your heart. But by the time they kind of get out to your tissues and are on their way back to your heart, everything kind of slows down. So God put in these one-way valves. So when blood flows through your veins, every heartbeat, the valves open, blood moves up, and the valves close so the blood can't move backwards. So it's constantly like being pushed, like traffic, sort of, in a good way. So that's how blood circulates. The lymphatic system is not like that at all. It doesn't have a heart to pump, and the lymphatic system is like the trash collector of your body. They run next to your tissues, things get into your lymphatic system, right? We all have lymph nodes, you feel them when you get infected. It's because that's what catches all the bad stuff that's in your body. So you don't have a heart to pump that stuff around. So how does it get to your liver, to your kidneys, so you can excrete it through your skin, through all of these ways that we get rid of waste? And it's from muscle movement.
Especially jumping.
Jumping is massive. Rebounding, get a little trampoline in your house. It's through muscle movement. The contractions, your heartbeat it's got a passive, little bit of a flow. It has one-way valves all over the place, but it's really through muscle movement. And the faster you can get your heart beating and the stronger you can get your muscles, it just happens more naturally. When I just jog to the bathroom right now, when you are walking, and the stronger your muscles are, the harder they're going to contract on that, even just when you walk, just walking around the mall, like going shopping. But exercise is massive for that. Mental health. Has everybody been going to church the past couple of weeks? Because he really drilled that in, and he's done a phenomenal, I wanted to hug him when he first started talking about it, because this is what I do, and he has done such a beautiful job in creating a very simple, easy to follow, this is what's happening on a physiological level inside of your heads, and this is why it's controlling you. He's done a great job. and spiritual. I mean, people that push down their godly parts of them end up sick on some level or another, because it's either they don't ever wake up to it, or it's what God can use in order to call them back. They have wake-up calls, or near-death experiences, or things like that. I mean, spiritual health is massively important. You can interject at any time.
Oh, no, you did a great job. This is a great little video of how stress affects you. And you'll see.
Hormone-wise, right.
Yeah. No, it does a good job of explaining itself, so I won't even talk about it.
But that is important, we need
Did we
that.
close it
We
again?
need our,
I think disconnect. No, it's
no,
gone.
it's not, okay.
Nope. Not going.
You're connected.
He's
We
got
now
a thread.
understand that there's a complex biochemical link between stress, the immune system, and illness. When we're stressed, the brain causes the release of chemicals which go through the bloodstream and activate the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands in turn give the body a shot of some very potent hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. Both give us a boost of energy, highly useful for survival. But when the stress is continuous and unremitting, cortisol continues to be released into the bloodstream. One of the side effects of cortisol is to suppress the activity of our immune system, leaving us vulnerable to infection and disease. Lower the stress, and you lower the risk of infection.
Yeah.
So that's been like huge for the pandemic and everything that everybody went through, because the stress that caused on everybody was like nothing, at least my generation had ever been through. I think a lot of people had never really been through, anything like that unless you lived in some country during one of the world wars. And it's absolutely right. Your body goes into fight or flight mode when it's stressed, and it shuts down your digestion, it shuts down your immune system, it heightens your ability to run and get away from a bear in the room, and it doesn't allow for your natural healing processes, the things that your autonomic nervous system doesn't control.
And unfortunately, a lot of people are just in a constant stressful environment, so your body is constantly in that fight or flight mode, even though you're not being attacked by anything. So, but you see what happens with the cortisol and everything that's released. It depresses your immune system, which we know at this day and age especially is bad. And we're going to find out too, a lot of the things that we eat, and just your body tries to deal with all this junk. It takes away from the immune system can't do what it's supposed to do, because it's preoccupied with trying to deal with all the garbage that we put in our body.
About 70% of your immune system resides in your stomach, in your gut, meaning small intestine, especially large intestine. 70% of your immune system. So if you don't have a well-functioning gut, you don't have defenses against things that you eat, that you breathe in, that you come in contact with. That's a huge number. That's a huge number. And most of the bacteria, or most of the DNA that's in your gut, I think 5% is actually human DNA. It's mostly bacteria that doesn't belong to you. It's a really awesome divine design. It's amazing how much we rely on other life forms to keep us healthy. So it's really our job to feed them, those little bugs, what they need so that they can continue to work for us and keep us healthy. It's a really great interconnected
I believe we're
relationship.
supposed to have about 3 pounds of
3 to 5.
good gut bacteria. I think the average, let's say just American, probably has a half a pound.
Yeah.
And it's due to overuse of
Or none.
antibiotics, or none, depending on, or other things, chemicals and things.
Eating animals that have been raised with antibiotics. Those antibiotics
The
now are in your
glyphosate,
system.
all
So
kinds of things. And
everything
then
is really
not
intertwined.
eating what we should.
Yeah,
Right.
they call it
The
the
combination.
gut biome, and every time you take antibiotics, you kill not just the bad bacteria, but you kill all the good bacteria too. And it takes up to a year, sometimes longer,
Ooh, I heard up to
2 years, to build all that back up again.
Wow.
And even if you don't take antibiotics, you're getting antibiotics through the milk, the dairy,
Conventional.
the meat. 80% of the antibiotics
Sold in America.
made and sold go to animal agriculture. They go to animals.
Not to humans.
They go to animals.
It's ridiculous.
80%. So of course the pharmaceuticals have a big stake in animal agriculture, which is the raising of animals for food, and industrial. Where you see them in these huge buildings, and they hide them in in these rural
Yeah,
areas.
you can't get onto their property,
And
they'll kill you.
so what goes on inside there is we'll see that it's just not killing us, but it's killing the animals, and it's killing our planet too. But that's a discussion for all another time. It's bad.
All right, so top 3 principles. These are really ingrained, these top 3 principles, because they literally cover everything. Can we put this slideshow on under the resources?
I'll try.
Okay. Okay. First one. Eat only substances God created for food and avoid everything else. This is from a book that I've been reading that Liza read too. It's a really phenomenal book, especially if you are like a Bible reading Christian. It is called What the Bible Says About Healthy Living by Rex Russell. He ties the Bible into, he's a physician, so he ties it into the medical model and he applies it in this way. So this is, I obviously studied a lot of this stuff, and these are like the 3 most comprehensive, they're his principles. So he uses this example, fat versus fat. So let's see, can you read those?
Leviticus 3:17, yep, ye shall eat no manner of fat of any creature fit for food whose flesh otherwise may be clean. I think it goes on to say especially ox, sheep,
Cows.
and pig especially.
Yeah. So, meaning, and I know that that's like Old Testament stuff, but physiologically, God put these practices in place because he knows our physiology the best. He knows how our bodies are designed the best, and he obviously created everything else, so he understands their physiology and how that works and how it wouldn't mesh with ours. Fat from an animal like a cow or a pig, for example. You break fat down, it goes into energy, but you also store fat in your body for later energy, and what else gets stored in the fat are bacteria, viruses, parasites, the dirty, dirty stuff that gets sucked up into that fat and gets held there. So when you get a piece of meat from an animal that isn't humanely raised in a, I take dominion over this animal and I'm going to be kind and loving and nurturing to this animal so that it serves us both. A conventionally raised on GMO grains and antibiotics, that's all getting stored in that animal's fat and then you're eating it. But it gets stored in like super concentrated levels. Like it doesn't leave that fat of that animal. So then you eat it and it's like a super pill that you're getting of toxins. Pigs, for example, one of the reasons, and this was fascinating, I read this, one of the reasons why God didn't want you to eat that in the beginning was because they have a very short digestive system and they will eat anything. They'll eat anything you put in front of them. So they're sucking up parasites and all of this way more than like a cow that's in the fields eating grass. So again, and a pig was like the worst, like don't eat pork, but that's why. That's why, and it makes sense. And when, who was it that saw the tapestries come down and saw all the food that you were allowed to eat? Peter? Right.
Yep.
So Peter saw this to give grace to people so that he could, so you could go and you could have pork. When we go camping with our children, we get a really nice like cut of bacon and we'll have that as a family and it's like a really big treat for us. But just because something, and it says this in here too, just because something was deemed okay to eat doesn't mean that it's healthy. There's a difference. And he very much breaks it down as to why. He gives a great example of like, Jewish babies are not supposed to be circumcised until day 8. In the hospital today, if you have a baby today, they're going to give your baby a shot of vitamin K. Vitamin K is needed to clot your blood so that you don't bleed a tremendous amount, right? So they can circumcise the babies in the hospital right there and they don't have to bleed, or they don't have to worry about hemorrhaging. Vitamin K naturally doesn't form into the body until day 7. So if you are waiting until day 8 to circumcise, it's right, am I right about my days?
Yes.
Day 8 to circumcise a baby boy, you're not gonna have to worry about bleeding risk. So these were just the rules that were given to them, not understanding why. I think, they followed them beautifully, but like, that's why. And understanding that gives so much more power to the Old Testament and the rules that were laid down, because they really work. And you follow them, they're good. So fat versus fat, you want to read the second one?
So what are you saying, eat bacon or don't eat bacon?
You should eat bacon.
You should.
So you gotta tell Bob, no more bacon
But
on
you're gonna be
Sunday.
fine if you have it once in a while.
Right,
Well, you just said we go camping and you eat a nice
When
cut
we
of
go
bacon.
camping, we get our meat from a farm that we, like, a subscription type of service
Yeah,
from like
that's what
local
we do.
farms, right?
Walden Farms.
So,
So I can eat farm bacon.
on an occasion,
Yeah,
right?
not
Because
every
it's
day.
not every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
No, right.
Okay.
If you say, like, okay, I'm gonna have it on Sunday, well,
Not every Sunday.
good, because people will do that, and then you zoom out and you're like, okay, well, that's like 4 or 5 times a month, and then how many times a year is that actually? Like, that's a lot. So focus on like a year thing. Like, how many times in a year am I gonna have a piece of cake? How many times in a year am I gonna have some bacon?
Yeah,
How many
I
times in a year am I gonna have some challah bread? Or, look at it that way.
Is it true then that what they seem to always say that with anything done in moderation will kill you? Is that true?
I'm not gonna say it, I have to think about that.
There's
That's
different
a
doctors
big
that are
question.
gonna say no.
So-
Or that's a big
Caldwell
statement.
Esselstyn says every time you eat animal products, animal proteins, oils even, he says you're damaging your endothelial cells, which are the cells in your blood vessels. And you damage those and they create a substance called nitric oxide, which is the biggest vasodilator of your body. They keep your vessels open, right? So you damage those cells, they don't create the nitric oxide anymore, and then your vessels naturally close up.
Oh, that
So-
was a good example.
So he puts these people on a strict diet and reverses their heart disease, just with,
No
and it's
oils.
not even like years, you're talking like months.
3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, and you'll see in a lot of these documentaries and a lot of these case studies, interventional studies where they took actual people and put them on their, they actually intervene into their lives. They're not like double-blind studies with placebos, and they put these people on these diets, and within 2 weeks, they're off their meds.
What is his name again?
Caldwell
B.
Esselstyn.
Esselstyn. His son is Rick Esselstyn. He did the Rescue 12 diet. He's
He's big in,
firefighter from Austin.
Forks over knives.
He's
my
his
best
son,
friend.
Rip Esselstyn.
My beef with meat.
Oh, and beef with meat?
My beef with meat.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's what.
So, and he'll
good.
show you,
Thanks.
like, it's just like foolproof. He puts them on this diet and he turns them around. And the beautiful thing is, it's not just heart disease, it's everything, because the body, we talked about the holistic approach, right? So you don't just heal one thing, you don't just heal,
Oh, right,
you don't
yeah.
just heal your diabetes, you don't just heal your high blood pressure, you don't just heal your heart disease, you heal everything at the same time, everything. Your skin clears up.
Should we
your
all do it? I
acne,
say we all
your
do it.
eczema.
Yeah, we can walk through,
Right?
we can
We
do
should
like
all,
a couple week walk through.
Support system.
Right, yeah, no, it's what community's for. So read the last one.
Isaiah 25:6, and in this mountain shall the Lord of hosts make unto all people a feast of fat things, a feast of wines on the lees, of fat things full of marrow, of wines on the lees well refined.
Okay, so this is where the fat versus fat comes in, because the first fat, he's referring to animal fat, where all of that, the toxins and things like that are getting held, so that's what you want to stay away from. The second fat, he's referring to the marrow on the bottom, and that would mean like bone marrow is the most juiciest part. That's where all the nutrients are inside the marrow. It's the most important part of the marrow. If you're talking about a grape, the most important part of the grape is what's on the inside. It's how they make wine. It's where the wine comes from. So that's what they're talking, grape, what was it, wine and olive oil. Oh, olive oil, that's the fat I'm looking for. So you have an olive, and you squeeze out the oil. That's the marrow in the olive that they're referring to. I will be buying a concordance just to confirm that. But when we looked up that last night, I was totally on board. That's what it means. So that's what the fat versus fat means. It's healthy fats like olive oil, cold pressed, not processed, meaning they take the olives and they put them in a press and they drip out the olive oil from it. They're not heated, it's not put into chemical processing, and it's right into a dark green bottle and then it's put on the shelf. Like that type of process is what you're looking for when you buy.
And that's how we make our juices, cold pressed juice. You're taking all the nutrients and vitamins out of that juice. And like I said, it takes 3 pounds of vegetables or fruits or vegetables to make a 16-ounce bottle. And then you're drinking that. So, and like I like to call it IV nutrition, because it's like it's readily available for your body, right? It goes right into the cells. You don't have to break it down. Your body doesn't have to spend all that energy breaking it down. You know, think about all the energy that your body takes to break down a steak. Like it's a ton of energy just to break it down to get the little bit of, you know, nutrients or protein that might be in there. But you know, if it's a conventionally raised piece of meat, it doesn't have much protein at all because they're not eating grass anymore. Anyway,
That's a good point.
yeah, we'll probably go with this.
Right.
The
Yeah,
GMO part.
the GMO side, and we can call it tonight. Eat foods as they were created before they were changed into something humans thought were better. This obviously refers to any and all processed foods. If it is in a package, just stay away. If you need something in a package, try to definitely stick to something on the nutrition label that under the ingredients, you're gonna see ingredients that you know, that you recognize, that you know what they are. Nothing, some sort of a chemical name, nothing with a broken down compound, whole foods. You want recognizable stuff that you know what it looks like in its whole form before it was put into a cracker. Like Mary's Gone Crackers, if you're a cracker person, is a great brand. They have phenomenal flavors. They are all whole food seeds, dehydrated nuts, like, but they're really, really good. I'm not just talking like this because, you know, like I can eat seaweed. Like totally normal stuff, and they're so crunchy and they're great. Manufactured stuff, like if you can't recognize anything on the label, or if you can't recognize some of the things on the label, like it's not food, it's been altered, stay away. Treated things, this goes for pretty much all conventional or produce, or what else is treated? Well, let's just stick with that.
Fruits and vegetables mostly.
Your body uses a lot of energy, like Martin was just saying, to break down its food. If you're introducing toxins in the form of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides on top of what your body already has to do, you're backing up your liver, you're overrunning your system like crazy. And if your body is working super hard to like figure out where to put all this stuff because you're not exercising, so you can't get it out of your system, it's storing it in your lymph system, it's storing it in the fats in your tissues, and it's just gonna stay there. And then your body is using all that extra energy where it's not supposed to. Like it's taking it away from your immune system, it's taking it away from your brain. Your brain uses the most energy out of every system in your body, which is a tremendous amount. It's like 25% of the energy that you have during the day is used for brain function. Digestive and nervous and health and immune is 20%. So if you're foggy, if you're brain fogged, like you could just be because you're eating conventional fruits and vegetables constantly. So there's a lot to be said for eating organic. And organic is not golden. the list of organic pesticides that are approved, herbicides, fungicides that are approved for organic farming is just a shorter list than the conventional. So it's just, you're just helping yourself all that much more, because again, this is a fallen world, so you're not getting perfection here, but you want to strive for optimal. And farm raised, stay away from farm raised fish. Heavily antibiotic, heavily, they're in these pools, and the amount of just like their own feces and everything that they're swimming through and eating, and again, everything on this planet is what it eats, and then you are what they eat. So it's like, I mean, on a cellular level, that's what's happening. You're eating it, your body's breaking it down, it's breaking it into those amino acids, carbs, and fatty acids, and it's putting it into your cellular structure. It becomes who you are on a DNA level. It's a really big deal.
They make it sound so good too, farm-raised fish.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, farm-raised, how bad could that be?
And GMOs.
Tilapia.
Right. Oh, that's like the worst.
Yeah, you're better off eating a quarter pounder with cheese.
Yes. So you want to eat from like the lowest part of the food chain when it comes to fish. Like sardines and anchovies are your really big best way to go, because they don't eat other fish.
Well, how about
Things
this
that...
other stuff, the wild caught salmon?
Okay, fine, yeah, salmon, but salmon
As long
is
as
a
it's not farm
hunter.
raised.
Salmon's on the higher end of the food chain, so salmon's eating fish, that's eating fish, that's eating fish, that's eating
No,
fish.
I didn't mean to say salmon.
He
I
doesn't
don't
eat
eat salmon,
salmon?
I can't
Oh,
stand
okay.
stuff.
Well, a lot of people do, and they think
But
salmon is
wild
good.
caught,
Go for wild caught.
Yeah.
Go with sustainable,
Wild caught
sustainably
fish.
caught, or
Right.
like fishing line pole
Right,
caught, like
right.
this kind of fishing pole. Not like the lines with the hooks, because that's like cheating. Like so.
yeah, I get it.
But that's the other part. You want to eat lower on the fish food chain, because then you're talking about higher levels of mercury. Because when a fish eats a fish, eats a fish, eats a fish, that fish is becoming all of everything that it ate before. So it's a really heavy metal that sits inside your brain tissue, and it really takes a lot to come out. It's a neurotoxin. Thank you.
Yeah. And you gotta get the toxins out before you get the good stuff in, right? Like Pastor Frank was saying, like you can't like. You take your old, what do you say, you take your old couch out, you can't even put an old couch on a new couch. So you gotta get those toxins out, it's such a key thing before you can get the good stuff.
So GMOs are like they're like the bane of my existence.
Yeah, and we'll talk a lot about it, but.
So here, we'll let you watch this and then we'll let you go.
This guy, you want to tell who this guy is?
He was a lecturer at the Hippocrates Health Institute when I taught. He is like the #1 proponent, is that the right word, for going up against GMOs and just education and running summits and stuff like that. Anti-GMO, like king. This is what he does, it's his job. And he does a really beautiful job of explaining them and why they're so bad. And I'll draw out the physiology at maybe next class as to what it actually does in your gut to your tissue, so you can see how leaky gut is caused.
He talks a little bit about it.
Go ahead. Oh.
Oh.
There you are again.
Technology's not a thing.
Is there like a what?
Not
No,
you,
it's not.
him.
Every time you pick the
Hi,
phone
this is
up,
Jeffrey Smith. I'm the Executive Director of the Institute for Responsible Technology, the author of Seeds of Deception and Genetic Roulette, and I made the movie Genetic Roulette, which some of you I think have seen. I'm going to give you GMOs 101, what you need to know before the GMO Mini Summit. So first of all, what's a GMO? Genetically modified organism. They take genes from one species like viruses or bacteria or humans or pigs and force it into the DNA of other species to transfer traits. Now this is a new technology, this is different than selective breeding. Selective breeding uses sexual reproduction. That's what is responsible for the billions of years of evolution. But they're doing something different that they just done in the last few decades. They're swapping individual genes or sequences of genes, pulling it out of one organism's DNA and putting it into another organism's DNA. The process itself creates a lot of problems, and they don't even focus on that. They focus on the traits. So here are the traits. Now, there are 5 major genetically modified food crops: soy, corn, cotton, canola, sugar beets. Also a 6th, alfalfa, used as hay for animals. All of those 6 are engineered with a trait called herbicide tolerance. They take a gene, generally from bacteria, and put it into the DNA of the plants so that the plants can be sprayed with certain weed killers that would normally kill them. So Roundup Ready crops can be sprayed with Roundup. Liberty Link crops can be sprayed with Liberty. And the crops absorb these weed killers, which are poisonous, and we eat them. So we'll be talking about in the summit what could go wrong by eating a weed killer. The other type of crops are the BT producing crops. BT is Bacillus thuringiensis. Basically, it's a poison. It's an insecticide. It breaks open the stomach of insects to kill them. It comes from a natural soil bacteria. So they take the gene out of the bacterium, put it into the DNA of corn and cotton plants. So now these plants are registered pesticides. So about 80% of the crops that are genetically engineered are engineered not to die when sprayed with poisonous weed killer, and about 20% produce a poisonous bug killer. And that's the main reason they GMO. There's also some papaya, some zucchini and yellow squash. They have a disease-resistant gene, but they're very, very small compared to the other main 6 genetically modified crops. Now, the FDA said we don't even need to test this stuff. It's completely safe. You ask the biotech industry, Monsanto on its website, no human tests are necessary. I say, yeah, a test is underway on all of us. The problem is there's no control group, no monitoring, no experiment. However, when you look at the animal feeding studies, when you look at what people say when they get rid of GMOs, when you look at what doctors say when they prescribe non-GMO diets to thousands and thousands of patients, when you look at what happens to livestock when they're taken off of GM soy and corn, according to the farmers and veterinarians, and when you look at the diseases that have actually gone up since GMOs were introduced, it tells a different story. We're going to be telling that story in the GMO Mini Summit from all of these different angles. So that we're going to look at the myths by the biotech industry, that it's supposed to feed the world, that it'll increase yield, that it'll reduce the use of agricultural chemicals, that it's safe, etc. You don't have to write these down. I'm going pretty fast. We're going to go slow in the summit to give you the bedrock, the foundation of what's a GMO and how to avoid it.
And then he just talks about the summit and stuff, but that's just of it. But this is what you want to look for on your products. It's the non-GMO label that you're going to see, and it's pretty small on some.
Yeah, here, so I have this, I'll show you. So if you buy organic, it automatically means non-GMO, which is like a really great kind of catch-all. It's probably the only thing that it definitely guarantees.
Monsanto is the big company that produces Roundup Ready plants. You know, you'll hear all the lawsuits about Roundup, but even people spraying Roundup are getting all these lymphomas and all these crazy cancers, right? But we're actually eating that food, and they feed that food to animals, and then we eat that, so we get it. And the biggest chemical in it is a chemical called glyphosate, right? And there's all kinds of problems. It's registered. It's
cancer causing.
Yeah, it's a carcinogen.
It's in Cheerios, like they tested Cheerios.
So
all this glyphosate is in Cheerios. So good heart, healthy food, right? That's what they say, right?
What were you saying about
So
Cheerios?
with Cheerios, I had learned, now I wish I knew this when my kids were babies, so my oldest was born in 97, 97. Funny thing is, in 1996 or 97 is when they started spraying the wheat with glyphosate. Well, Cheerios, it's been floating around, like if you want to look at food products that have the highest levels of glyphosate, Cheerios is at the top. What's one of the #1 first foods that babies eat?
Cheerios. Oh my God.
And then you wonder why our kids have all these digestive issues that we didn't have. Why our kids have autism and all these other issues. Again, it's not the one thing, but it's a piece of why are all these diseases so prevalent in children nowadays, just in the last 20-something years. It's pretty scary.
It completely correlates with the use with GMOs. And then you throw in the BT toxin, like they were saying, and what that does is it it blows open the intestine, the insides of insects. That's how
Yeah,
it
I
kills
saw
them.
It-
So what do you think it's doing to our insides? And
Wow.
and everybody's like,
The
well,
cell
where's all this
structure is no
leaky gut
different.
coming from? Gee, I wonder where this leaky gut's coming from. Like, it's a big mystery.
And then you're eating genetically modified food without knowing it. You're going to a barbecue and you're having corn on the cob, not knowing that the most corn, like the only corn I buy is organic corn, and I'm gonna triple check that because that, to me, that fact is like horrendous what it does to you. It destroys the endothelial lining of your gut on purpose. So then you create these holes in your gut, and now you're eating all this other stuff, and it's getting inside where it's not supposed to be, and you instantly have massive inflammation. Systemic, meaning from head to toe in every system, because you have food and chemicals and everything, bacteria that's supposed to be in your gut is now getting out of your gut in very small microscopic doses, but it doesn't matter, it's not designed to be there. So I just want to say,
So yeah, I would drink
So-
orange juice.
how are you guys doing?
It's
a lot.
I'm still fat.
I know. Well, so this
Yeah, I
is
thought
a
I'd come here and
process.
drop a couple of pounds.
So it's really difficult to go to the grocery store after we talk about this for a couple of weeks to like buy something that you know now is not good for you. Now you understand why. That's why the why is so important.
So when
Because
you
it
go,
stops you.
so when you go to the produce section, I never noticed this. Well,
I buy misfit markets.
That's great. They're great. That's great. Yeah.
or if I go to the Big Y
Yeah.
and I go into the produce section,
Yeah.
there's a separate
Organic.
organic
Yes.
fruits.
All
Well, it'll say on
So-
top, it'll say on top
So
organic.
don't go, if it doesn't,
It's
if I
growing.
want oranges, go to the organic, it'll be the
Yeah.
oranges
But
and
again,
organic orange.
Go to Aldi's, a lot cheaper. Trader Joe's, a lot cheaper for organic fruits
And
and
even
vegetables.
Whole Foods, so.
I know,
for produce.
honestly, Whole Foods, hands down, they partnered with Amazon and their apples, like you can get organic apples at Stop and Shop or Big Y. Big Y is even more expensive for like $3.49 a pound or $2.49 a pound.
Yeah.
At Whole Foods, it's gonna be a whole $1 less and you have a
Really?
much bigger variety.
$1.99, you find
As,
a pound.
like
It's-
Whole
fruits
Foods
and-
is cheap for
for produce,
produce,
you
for
said.
produce.
Yeah.
Everything
I
else
always
is
thought
like.
they were more expensive.
No, they're produce since they partnered with Amazon and we are getting an
Okay.
Amazon.
We take people, we go through this.
So we can do a lot of, like a week or two of like just this type of information so you understand it, and then we can start setting up for that type of things. Like we can do pantry and fridge and like work on cleaning that stuff out with you guys, and then what to replace it with, because obviously you'll now need to know that, like pastas, gluten and things like that, and why that's really detrimental to you. But replacing it with a really great rice pasta. My husband is a full-blooded Italian who was raised by a single woman, so like super, super foodie mama's boy, and he will eat this pasta. Like there is no problem. Like when we found it, because we went through like a lentil pasta, chickpea pasta phase, it was like, right, exactly. And he found this, and it was like, whoa, okay,
You don't
like
even really.
honestly.
Really? See, I did a quinoa brown rice.
Because you got a couple of paisans
Harder
over,
to cook.
because you got a couple of paisans over here.
No,
cooking.
harder, no, it's
You got
just
the
boiling
right
water.
pasta.
I just had
You
like.
gotta have the right pasta, Tony, right?
It cooks very well.
There's anything that you can eat that's not white better for you. Eating the rainbow, like the darker the color, the more potent it is, and like polyphenols and essential everything, because it's rarer. Blueberries, like plums, stuff that are like purple and deep colors, blue, purple, black.
Beets, red.
Super, super nutrient dense. So this has been a lot.
It's been great.
How's everybody doing?
Hey, I'm staying up past my bedtime.
I know, I gotta get kids home now and put everybody to sleep.